Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. Hey, welcome to Hyphenate Halftime for this Monday, November 25th, Thanksgiving week coming up. This Thursday, we will have Dorothy Perret to finish off our independent publishers November sweepstakes. But I want to welcome my good friend, Mr. Aaron Farley. How do you do today?
I do well. This has been a fun week.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, super fun week.
Fun
month.
Ray
I mean,
one?
sorry.
Fun month. Okay, yeah.
Fun month.
Yeah, it's something different. I mean, I like how themes go. And the last theme one I did was the Rhode Island School of Design, Providence scene, early aughts. You know, the kind of misty vibe. I like to do more of them. I guess 2 or 3 a year would be good. They're hard to plan. It's a funny one to set up.
It's a cool one though. Yeah, I mean, because I do like even the RISD one. It was cool to actually hear multiple stories from the same story from multiple perspectives. And we're like, oh yeah, I was at that party, or I was at that, I was there when they did that. Yeah.
That's a funny one. Yeah. It's like a Rashomon kind of thing, where you can kind of piece together the details from the people that were there and the people that put it together and the people who missed it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and this is so amazing having different book publishers, especially all three of them being in or finding their way to Los Angeles and doing the majority of their later work in their later careers in Los Angeles. And it's cool to see those, all of that kind of come together and hear all the different stories.
Yeah. I guess I didn't even think about that. I forget sometimes. Yeah. My Los Angeles bias.
But it's cool though. I mean, I think maybe the one of the cool things about your podcast is because you are an actual Angelino, that you actually grew up here, and I would say like the majority of the people that you're talking to are from here or live here now, but were not born here.
Oh, right.
Maybe you could do the list to see
how many actual people born in Los Angeles. Wow.
Yeah, but probably not a ton, right? And so it's cool to hear because you actually have that perspective of growing up here and not only that, but like growing up kind of outside of LA and then being in LA and like what that is and growing up in the scene. Like I love that even right at the end that in the interview that you are like, well, I went to the Jabberjaw when I was like 11. or whatever it was, 12, and Brian's like, wait, what? No way. Oh my God, that's so crazy. But you have those experiences because having your older brother like taking you around, and so you also have those experiences that like probably most people your age didn't have. So you got like a sneak peek into all that stuff as a kid.
Oh my God.
And the skate shop stuff and the going to shows and brother knowing bands and being in bands and all that kind of stuff. So you actually have like the bird's eye, or not even the bird's eye view, like the worm's eye view of all of that stuff. Like you were in it before you even knew you were in it.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was not, I don't say it for cool points. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like a funny one that I realized after, years later, like, oh, that was cool. But there was a lot of stuff that you're like, no idea what's going on, but definitely it always seemed fun. My first concert was a Rock for Choice concert, and it was at the Palladium. It was one of those big bands, or lots of mini band bill kind of thing, like big fest kind of thing, but one night. And I was excited. I wanted to go. I insisted on going, or really begged my mom and dad and brothers to take me because I wanted to see White Zombie. They were my
Amazing.
That was the only reason. But unbeknownst to me, I saw, like Free Kitten. It was like the Kim Gordon, Julie Kafitz band, and then there was other cool bands on the bill too, but I wasn't there for them. I wanted to see White Zombie. That was my 12-year-old brain. So excited to.
That's awesome. What was that, like 92, 91?
I want to say 91, 92. I've looked it up in the past to see the lineup on it, but it was one of those kind of things where like all I could think about was I want to see this White Zombie band.
Dun 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 dun.
Exactly. I was so stoked.
I love that record.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know I don't know if I've said it on the podcast or if we've talked about White Zombie. I feel like we have, but that was one of my because my friend Zach in Spokane, I feel like he had a cousin who was in LA or something. He had some kind of connection to LA, and he had gotten a tape from, I'm just going to say it's his cousin. He got a tape from his cousin, and it had this band White Zombie. It was like the whole record, that whole first record. And, but it was in like 1990. Oh. And so, we listened to it. He's like, I don't know. There's this record that my cousin sent me, or this tape, but they were nowhere. It wasn't like we couldn't find, the records wasn't where we were. And somehow it was like I don't know if it was an early release, or maybe it had come out on a indie label first or something. I don't know. But his cousin had gotten these songs, and so we were playing it for like a year, and then we were watching some snowboard video, probably, I don't know, TV2, TV3, something like that, and this White Zombie comes on, and we're like, oh my God, wait, this is the band. These are the guys. It's a real band. And so then that was just our favorite, whatever, like, oh my God, how did they find this song? This is amazing. And then turns out, massive band. They were already big, and outside of Spokane, Washington. But so then they became like this massive, whatever, White Zombie, and we were just like, we had already been listening to him for like 2 years.
Oh, it's hilarious. Yeah, I looked it up. So it was 1993 at the Palladium, and I'm finding it on Getty Images. They have pictures. Stone Temple Pilots played.
Wow.
So I guess I would have seen them. Bikini Kill played.
Ooh, that's cool.
I had no idea.
Wait, were they
like Bad Religion? One of the 14 times I've seen Bad Religion without ever trying to see Bad Religion once in my life.
They were just there. Yeah. That's amazing. Oh man! That's awesome.
King Missile. I remember King Missile.
Oh, from Seattle.
Detachable Penis song.
Yeah.
Detachable Penis. Yeah, it was the most random lineup of bands.
That's awesome.
It's hilarious. Yeah, I got to see if I can find the poster for it. But I was lucky, man, to have older brothers who were into music and parents that trusted my older brothers to take me around. So in 93, I would have been 12.
Okay.
Just turned 12. It was April 30th, 1993.
Oh, that's awesome. So. April 30th. Oh, that was like the month before I graduated high school. Or wild. 2 months. 2 months. And I was out.
You graduated 90. Your class in 93?
93, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Shan is class of 94. I was class of 99.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm still just a baby.
Yeah, that's amazing though to see White Zombie at 12. It's heavy.
I loved it, man. I was
and
so
just
stoked.
to be like, oh, whatever, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, Stone Temple Pilots would have been massive at that point to play the Palladium.
Right in 93?
Like they would have been like an arena band at that point, right?
I would assume so. I mean, I don't know when that record came out, but that seemed like a big one.
I remember still being in high school because I remember every time I would like drive home into like my parents' garage. And so this is where my memory could be failing me. You could be like, no, Stone Temple Pilots were like 1996. And I'd be like, what? But I remember always like driving into my parents' garage and this band playing, and it was like, oh, it's Pearl Jam. This is that Pearl Jam song. And then it would come on and be like, and that was Stone Temple Pilots. And I was like, oh. Or I'd be like, what is this Pearl Jam or is this Alice in Chains? Nope, it's Stone Temple Pilots, the exact middle of Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains.
The band that sounds like every other band.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
This just sounds like hey, Sebastian and the Minnows in the morning. Oh yeah,
it's too funny.
Yeah, it's funny. I never saw them. I saw Alice in Chains, which is great.
Okay.
Yeah, they were awesome. But it was like the Lane Staley massively on heroin times, and he did not move. I believe he was just like on the mic, just like didn't move.
Oh wow.
And just, was there, but the song sounded amazing. Tad opened up. I feel like I've mentioned this like multiple times.
That's great.
I do wish that there was, if I would say, although concerts are so expensive now, I don't know how anybody goes. We were looking for tickets for a certain concert. Oh wow, that's an amazing poster.
I think this is a T-shirt. Yeah, it was Stone Temple Pilots, White Zombie, Bad Religion, Bikini Kill, King Missile, Free Kitten. Wow, keep abortion safe and legal. Who would think that now, 31 years later, it would still this fucking nightmare of a country. We'd have the same fucking issues.
Hey, it's just, you got to keep things interesting always. I guess that's the theme. The theme of the country.
A little less interesting for me.
I mean, I'm not talking about your idea. I'm just like the country's. This is the country's marketing ploy. Keep them guessing. But
what were we saying? Oh yeah, Alice in Chains.
Yeah, I feel like I was done. Yeah, I don't
know. What was I going to say? So Bryan Ray. I mean, he was definitely ensconced in this. Oh my God. In this scene, and everything. And I remember the Slash Records.
Yeah,
was a big part of his story. And kind of moving to Los Angeles and getting involved with Slash Records, which I knew a little bit about. But again, I'm always happy to have these conversations. Like, well, tell me about that. Like, what were you doing, and how did that work?
Well, I love those stories because I was never that kid that was like, I'm going to get involved in something and annoy these people so much that they just end up hiring me. Which I know so many people that have that story.
It's a way to do it, yeah.
That are just like, no, I called them every day, and I was like, God, I would get to day 2 and I'd be like, you know what? This is never going to work. I don't want to be a bother. They're like, no, trust me, kids, be a bother.
Yeah.
If you're interested in something, be the bothersome one and be interested. And then when you get your chance, work your ass off.
Yeah. We got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah. Especially when you're young, just like call people. And then they'll finally go, oh my God. Okay. At least he's interested or she's interested. Like, yeah, get them here because half these people we hire are not interested. And we at least need people that are interested.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I did have, like, when I was looking for when I found out a photo assistant was a thing, my future sister-in-law, Gina, Michelle's sister, who was a photographer and who was in LA working as a photo assistant. And then, so when I got out of school and I was going to Portland and I was looking for a job and I was talking to Gina, she's like, oh, just call photographers. They need assistants. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
No. What do you mean call photographer? How do I call
what's a photographer?
What's
the phone number?
Honestly, Yellow Pages.
No way.
It was because it was 1997 when I moved to Portland. So it was like, look them up in the Yellow Pages. All the photographers are in the Yellow Pages. So I looked them up and I just went down the line, and the first 4, I found 2 of them that were like, oh yeah, you just moved. Yeah, sure. Just, you have a portfolio? And I'm like, kind of, from college. Yep. Bring it in.
That's enough.
And so I had a couple meetings, and then those photographers, and I'm like, I don't know really what an assistant is. They're like, you figured out. You'd be like the 3rd assistant. So you'd be the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. Just whatever. And then I was like, okay, so what do I do? And they're like, well, we'll just call you, or, call me back and remind me and whatever. But also, your portfolio, you kind of shoot music and stuff. Go talk to these 3 people. And then those people would give me numbers for the other 3 photographers. And then eventually I found one photographer, Morgan Henry, his assistant had just quit. and he also went to Washington State, where I went, and he was like, "Oh, you went to Washington State? Oh, that's crazy." Well, I'm moving studios also, so why don't you come in and you can help me pack stuff up, and then I'll take you on a couple shoots too. And then I ended up working for him full time for 2 years.
Wow!
The whole time I worked there, he's the only person I ever worked for.
That's amazing. What kind of stuff was he shooting? What was his?
Just commercial stuff. So he kind of shot everything, which was great. He shot he shot a lot of tabletop stuff, but it's Portland, so he would shoot like Nike. He'd shoot Nike shoes and some other like on. It was weird because it was the first tech, right before the first tech bubble. So it was like the first tech VC, like it was 98 in Portland. So it was like all the internet. It was just the internet. So it was like the people were trying to figure out what the internet kind of was going to be.
How do we?
So they were just throwing money at Portland and LA and stuff, but like really Portland and Seattle because all the computer stuff. So we shot in like a computer chip factory, which was crazy, and but then he also shot for like Outside magazine and would shoot runners. We shot like an ASICS campaign and some Nike stuff and some Adidas, and it was just like all over the place. It was the first time I traveled east of Montana, and I was 20. Let's see, I was 23. No, I wasn't that old when I lived there. Yeah, 22, 23. So it was the first time I had been east of Montana. But in those 2 years, it's like I went to New York 3 times, and Chicago and Florida and Texas and all these places. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm hooked. This is crazy.
I want to do this. This is me.
And I'm getting paid. This is insane. But it was like that kind of a little bit of the tenacity and just like, yeah, just bug people, like keep calling back, keep calling. And then I just got lucky, but.
Yeah, no, I love that about Bryan's story. It really just, the timing worked to where, the band moved down here, they were recording, and then
what band was it?
His band was called Black Market Flowers.
Okay.
I know he told me they're going to be reissuing one of the records.
Oh, that's cool.
Just coming up here, and it was cool. I mean, it was definitely of that era. You know what I mean, of that time. He played bass, and
it was what years? What was that?
I want to say like 89 to 92 or 93. Okay. Or maybe even later than that. Let me see if I can find out. Yeah.
So he was in that kind of like grunge / like.
Oh, the first link that comes up is Weezerpedia. So they must have played with Weezer at some point.
Okay.
Black Market Flowers played occasional gigs with Weezer during the early club days.
Oh man, that's cool.
I know they played with Dogstar.
Oh, that's amazing. I love Keanu Reeves.
He's like a nice guy, right?
I've never heard a bad story about him. I once had drinks at a bar with a group of people, and his mom was one of the people.
Well, you had drinks with Keanu Reeves' mom?
Yeah.
What? How does that
That's
work?
why LA is amazing. It was just our friend worked at a recording studio.
Uh-huh.
And it was like it was Chris, who I was in the band with, Sabertooth Tiger.
Oh, yeah,
and then it was like his best friend was like an engineer at kind of like a big fancy recording studio. And so, and I don't even know why he would just always have very random friends. He was like friends with, or it's like the other people there were friends with like, oh God, what was his name from Swingers? Vince Vince Vaughn.
Oh yeah.
Like they were like friends with Vince Vaughn. Like he would show up and like, oh wait, LA's weird. This is the craziest thing. But then one time we just went out to the bar, and there were a couple people came by, and then one of the people was like, yeah, it's Keanu Reeves' mom. Like, this is the weirdest place ever. She was super nice. It was like fun.
That's cool. Did she look like
she
Keanu
didn't
Reeves?
seem old. I mean, I don't know. This is dark.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. She didn't seem old enough to be Keanu Reeves' mom, but I guess it was. I don't know.
That's so funny. Nice. Yeah, I heard her story. She was a costume designer, and she would dress, a lot of the celebrities. Right. She would get gigs, doing costumes or doing a wardrobe sort of stuff. And there was a story I think Keanu Reeves told on a talk show where Dolly Parton wore a Playboy bunny kind of suit, like a small skimpy sort of like lingerie set but Keanu Reeves' mom designed it, and there's a picture of Keanu Reeves wearing it as like a kid, she tried it on him first or as after the shoot she still
that's
had
amazing.
He wore it for Halloween or something.
Well, that's probably the connection of why she was probably there with someone else that was from the industry, and they knew that was like a set designer or something. I don't know. It was like one of those. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, that sounds
right. Yeah. Seems like a nice guy. World. I don't know. Yeah, what a small world.
I remember when I first met Bryan Ray, he was friends with Callie, who our buddy Avi knew Callie and all these guys. I feel like Avi was our kind of like connection to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Avi Ron was so social.
Yep.
And but he introduced us. Yeah, and I think we went to the Bryan Ray studios or to his like office, and he shared an office with across the hall from Wayne Kramer from the MC5.
No way.
I was like, what? This is nuts. And it was like right on Fairfax and like Melrose. It was like super close. And then Callie and Brian were doing the Teenage Teardrops record label at the time. And then I remember, meeting Brian and him saying he was going to do this, the kind of spiritual sequel to the Fucked Up and Photocopied, featuring newer sort of bands or more contemporary things. I think the first Punk Flyer thing kind of ended around the mid 80s, late 80s, and then so he wanted to do kind of just sort of document more flyers. And so I think we had some Wives flyers or Smell flyers and stuff at the time.
That's so rad.
Yeah,
I love it, and I love that you guys talked about. I mean, even I think right at the end of the interview, and I feel like this does get talked about often on this podcast, is like how different LA is than people from outside of LA think it is, maybe, if that's the way to put it. Like that it's like people, the idea of LA is that it's kind of this vapid, like plastic, Hollywood, whatever.
There's still a lot of that.
But I mean, there is, but I mean, you have that in Dallas, Texas too. It's just like, that's like really wealthy people doing wealthy people things. And there's a lot of money in LA, but the core of LA is this like interesting, weird place that is very like that. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like since it's so spread out, probably even if you grow up here, you can find a place within LA that suits you and move there. Like you don't have to move completely out of the city to become a new person. You could just move from like West Hollywood to Echo Park, and you could be you're like, no. I need to shed my skin and become a new person. I'm going to move 2 miles to the east it's completely a different place.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start over,
I'm curious about the hyper locality of anywhere post, sort of internet and social media and, this sort of greater homogenizing or flattening of culture. But it definitely was the case, prior to social media, where, I still feel like these neighborhoods exist. There's probably like 4,000 micro, neighborhoods,
totally.
Micro cultures, and just in the one city of Los Angeles, like you say, it can really, it's hyper compact and dense. It's like a densely populated area. A lot of it is, and from one block to the next, that's what always made it seem so funny. It's such a crazy melting pot of like, just the disparage, what I mean? Where it's like there's homeless people and Bentleys, and like the wealthiest of the wealthy, and then just people literally with $0, more or less coexisting. I mean, it's same thing we said for any kind of major urban area, but I think it also goes down to just the where you would live, where the mansions are and where the apartments are, that are semi-affordable or not very far apart. And for a place like Los Angeles, where
sometimes only a couple, like a block or two.
Yeah.
That it could be like, or you're in a nice neighborhood, and then there's the like apartment row in that neighborhood that goes for like blocks and blocks. Like Glendale would be a perfect example, right? Like you have like really nice areas, and then like a block away you have a bunch of apartments, and then another block away you have like the Americana or the Glendale Galleria. Like you have the malls
like
and all
meta,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're probably like you could live a block from a mall, and also on the other side a block from like a $4 million home.
Right.
Yes. And it'd be like, what? Yeah, I don't know. Yep, it works. I don't know how it works. Somehow it works. It's weird. I mean, Glendale's its own thing.
Yeah, but it's it's unique in that like there's not really the type of like high street or city centers or commerce versus residential. Like it's such a fractured kind of collage of a city. There's a great book called City of Quartz. It was written by this author Mike Davis, who's like a kind of cultural or architectural anthropologist. I remember in college reading it. And it was sort of along those lines of like when I was reading like Noam Chomsky and reading these sort of like anthropological or sociological sort of analysis of places and people and things and culture. But the City of Quartz one was amazing, especially at that kind of college age level where it really broke down the strange way that the city exploded post World War II, there's several explosions, and you just sort of get this weird mutated kind of gelatinous, densely populated city that privatizes public spaces. I remember that was one of the bigger things that I took from it. I'm sure there's more to it, but this is 20 years ago, trying to look back in the murk of it all. But I remember the big idea was that most cities are designed to have some type of public space, that you just as a citizen, as a person, not a property owner or guest, you could occupy these spaces. There are parks or plazas or some kind of thing, but Los Angeles really doesn't have those and doesn't really prioritize those. There's these strange private spaces that sort of you have to be invited in or have to be sort of vetted. There's a gatekeeping of sorts that allows one to sort of interact in these spaces. And I think that's what really sets LA apart. It's a city that was developed around the car. A lot of the cities, it's a young city, right? Within the last 100 years. And in the East Coast, there was still horse and buggy, or it was around water sources, waterways. But in LA was the car. Post 1940s, and the car exploded, and the suburbs were created, and the waters pumped in from Owens Valley. All those things. Yeah, and like legitimately, they like a company bought the trolley system, and then Judge Dune from
all
Roger Rabbit.
Took all the cars out and sent them to San Francisco, right?
It was Goodyear. It was the tire companies that dismantled the public transportation in Los Angeles.
Genius move, man. Genius business move.
People on trolleys don't buy tires.
Yeah. I mean, and the crazy thing is like when you're in Silver Lake now, there's like a dog walking, like you can walk your dog up on these trails up above, like kind of just below Dodger Stadium, that weird little area right there, up above the Zebulon or whatever like across the street from Zebulon and up above. That's where, but across the street from Frogtown, that's where the old trolley bridge used to be. And so there's the old area where the tracks used to be right up there on the hill. And then now you just like walk your dogs up there and it's kind of sketchy, but it's, and there's like a bunch of little tiny houses up there that used to be like right along the train tracks. Just used to be along the train tracks. And there's weird little green belts. They're like, oh, what did this used to be? Oh, that is where the trolley used to come from downtown through Silver Lake and over the bridge. And then it used to go up to Glendale right there. It's insane. And they just like blew it up.
There's a cool corner over by the Guitar Center on Sunset, and right there along Sunset Boulevard, where there's like a diagonal alleyway that cuts through like a parking lot. Right by Meltdown and Sunset. It's like Curson and Sunset is one of those streets, and it's literally the diagonal of where the streetcar would go through.
Yeah.
So now there's just a weird like alleyway between two buildings in a corner. You're like, doesn't make any sense, but it's there. But I don't know. But again, I think it's so interesting. This is what makes the city so weird and so interesting is that, there isn't anything too precious about it, but it is absolutely a capitalist, sort of caste system in one way or another of privilege and access to spaces, and all these kinds of things that I think, and that's where, the idea of all like the fakeness or the this or the that, like it's another kind of game, I think that people play, and people move here from all over the world to become a star, or they used to. I don't even know, but it's like they don't even make movies in Los Angeles anymore. So I think some of that allure has been lost. Like you don't necessarily need to live in LA to work for movies. If anything, you should live in Vancouver or Atlanta or New Orleans. You'd probably get more, set work and just production work there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess you have like the comedy clubs, like if you wanted to be a comedian or something like that. But I know now that's even moving around the country, like Austin and bigger places that now you don't even necessarily have to be here for that. But I don't know, like even it's funny when people reference like Hollywood. Oh, you're in LA. Oh, it's Hollywood. And I'm like, Hollywood's not, I mean, it's a legitimate place. It's a neighborhood. But it's not like a real place. Right, like Hollywood exists.
Hollywood, I'm here. Yeah,
everywhere.
I'm here to be a star.
Everywhere else, it's like. I mean, most of our friends right now who work in the industry are having a really rough time because there's not a lot being shot here right now.
Yeah,
like a lot of things move around the Vancouver and Canada and.
Well, I think there's some kind of
Atlanta
retribution post strikes. It seems to be like the production, and also the going into streaming. There seems to be a lot of, the industry is imploding upon itself.
Yeah. Well, when you see the
whether
numbers,
it's by design or not, someone's making these decisions to basically like choke out and starve whatever system was. There was an ability to make money in this entertainment model, but I think it's being, again, much like the red line, where there's things to design like, well, okay, we're going to do this in a different way.
Yeah,
it's not going to be.
We're just going to get rid of this.
We're not going to shoot things here. We're going to do things differently, and it's going to profit. It's going to definitely profit some people, but not whatever the old way was. Whatever the old system was is going to be totally, changed.
Yeah, and when you see the numbers of like podcasts getting millions and millions and millions of views,
like ours,
I mean, we're just rolling in cash, though. That's
absolutely.
The biggest problem for me is where do I put all of this money? But that you see those numbers, and then you see the numbers of like regular television, and you're like, oh my God, like the top 5 podcasts are getting like 5 times the amount of views as like a network TV, like whatever's on network TV is getting way less than podcasts.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy. And then a podcast is like, even the top podcasts are like what, 5 people, maybe a little production team.
Oh, to make it. Yeah.
Yeah. To make it. And then like
people.
a studio, it's like hundreds of people. Yeah.
Right.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows
it's a strange time. What will happen next?
But this brings up what Bryan was talking about too. And I feel like this is the common thread of Clint and JC and Bryan all were like, well, I didn't get into this to make money. I want to make money, but I got into this because I wanted to either support a scene or just support artists, or it was because of what I was really passionate or what they were really passionate about. And that's what drives them. And I think that is probably the model of the future, like little micro, I don't know what you would even call that, like scenes, like back to being like little micro scenes and of actually like really being interested in certain things and being able to market that thing and having low overhead and being able to like just make enough money to make the next one and maybe pay a mortgage, but probably pay rent.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's hard to know, right? I mean, I feel like it's doing it like 10 other jobs, which just kind of fulfills the name of the podcast or the theme of the podcast of being a hyphenate. I think Clint's things awesome that he's publishing books and selling coffee.
Yeah.
and roasting coffee. So,
totally.
in between laying out books, he can go in there and fire up the roaster and roast some beans, and he's selling stuff. And it's like, what more of a hyphenate could you ask for?
I know, right?
This sort of seems to be, but it's part of the model because, again, if the books aren't selling, the coffee's selling. If the coffee's not selling, hopefully the books are selling.
Yeah.
Just kind of diversifying your career, diversifying your income stream just sort of seems to be the a necessity, because things are shifting so fast. Things are always changing. You never know what's going to be the thing that hits or when it's going to hit.
Yeah.
Being able to just pivot. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. And keeping them somewhat in the same, people that like books also like coffee. This seems about right.
Relative. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Bryan too, it's like when he's just like his real job is being a music supervisor and recording, like a producer and doing all of that kind of stuff. It's like, that's stable. I'm assuming pretty stable. And especially in this town, if you get a couple clients that are doing shows all the time, this is pretty stable. And then you're able to actually do whatever you want book wise, or be able to put out the books you want to.
That freedom to put out what you want when you want to, and not feel like you're beholden to something.
Totally. And not have to think of we have to do a couple things that I'm not into so we can make the money to do. That's not the way. That's just not the way any of it works. I mean, I know even being a photographer, those first couple times that you take those jobs where you're like, well, it's good money, but oh my God, this is horrible. Or these people are horrible, or what I'm shooting is not great. I don't want anybody to ever see this, or, whatever. You get that feeling, and then you get the check and you're like, oh, this is nice. Okay, wait, do I have to do another one now? Okay, wait, is this the trajectory is getting weird. It's not being fun anymore. The trajectory is okay, where am I going with this? And that feeling sucks. It sucks for making things that you want to make. That feeling is a tough thing sometimes to grapple with when it's something that you love doing. It's one thing to have a crappy job and you don't care about it anyway, and it's not part of your personality and part of what you do. That's fine. But it's when it's what you do, and then you're also doing a horrible part of it. It's not even horrible, just something that you're not interested in, and you're like, oh God, I'm using my powers for evil.
Hopefully not evil.
Not evil. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
No,
but you feel like that. Do you feel like that? Wait, this isn't what I got into this for. So I think that he has such a good outlook on it of I have my other stream of income so that I can, the thing that I love doing the most is the books and the working with people and being in a group of people making a thing. And that way it opens him up to just do only the projects he wants to do. And I think that's so healthy.
Yeah, you were talking. I forget if we was on mic last time, but you were talking about that you'd done some work for Bryan.
Yeah, through Clint.
First met him.
Yeah,
was that, we were talking about that on the air, or was that off?
Maybe right at the end. I don't remember, but yeah, when it was at the very, it was. I had just really done a couple things. I want to say I had shot a couple things for Clint. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But so I used to shoot some stuff for Roger Gassman, do you know Roger? Right. Yeah.
Not personally, but yeah. I know the work.
But from when he did Swindle magazine, and I used to shoot some stuff for Swindle from time to time. And then Roger is always publishing books and doing art shows and just hustling maybe the busiest person I've ever met, who does amazing work all the time. And so I used to shoot some stuff for him, just tabletop stuff on white, because I knew how to do that. As one of those, it was, it's so many of us grew up shooting bands and shooting all these things. And then I also was an assistant for a photographer who did studio lighting. So I kind of knew how to do that. And he's like, wait, you know how to just shoot product shots? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, come here. So I ended up, but it was great because it was always like with Roger. It started with shooting stuff with Roger, and it would be like, first pressings of Minor Threat, purple vinyl, whatever, like 7-inch. Like he was doing. I think it was for a DC book, like a hard. I don't think it was just even DC hardcore. I think it was just maybe DC in the 80s or something. And it was all these like go-go flyers and go-go stuff, and then a bunch of Minor Threat and a bunch, just all this crazy stuff. And I would just sit at his house with these boxes of things, and you'd take one out and light it and shoot it. And so I just knew how to do that. And then with Clint, I don't know if because I shot some of Clint's stuff for Deadbeat Club, but I think that was later. But Clint was working with Bryan and doing graphic design something. And he was like, you know how to shoot stuff on white, right? Yeah. And he's like, okay, I got a job for you for the next couple of weeks. And then, so I went in, and I think the first job was for like a replacements book, maybe. Oh. Just like a bunch of.
Sounds cool. The band Replacements?
Yeah. Oh. Maybe that was the first one or the second one. But anyways, just like ephemera. It was like guitar picks, wristband, like jewelry,
stuff,
just stuff, like amazing, like boxes. It'd be like, oh, here's this box of this other stuff, and it would be like flyers and all sorts of stuff. And then another one was for, I want to say it was just punk T-shirts. That's all I shot. I don't know if the whole book was just punk T-shirts, but I think it was. And so it was hundreds and hundreds of punk shirts from the 70s all the way up through. I feel like there might have even been like old, like Bad Religion shirts and stuff. Maybe, I don't remember, but I do remember it was a bunch of original Betsy Johnson, like Sex Pistols.
Oh, wow.
Like handmade the original shirts that he had found somehow, maybe even bought them off eBay or something. But it was the collections were amazing. It was just like, here's these boxes, and I'm going through and I'm like, wait, is this original? He's like, oh yeah, no, they're all real. Yeah, this is all the real thing.
You were telling me, yeah, you get them for cheap and then just resell them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I feel like, because I was like, God, you must have a crazy collection. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I keep some of it. But I ended up like, I love doing the books. And then, but it was it was just so fun too, because he was always like so excited about whatever it was. Be like, oh man, we're doing this, this is amazing. And then he would just leave me be, and I'd sit over in his, like the recording, like one of the recording studio things and rooms, and just set up lights and sit in there for like 4 days and just shoot.
Just shooting everything.
Crazy T-shirts and look through stuff. And, yeah.
Well, that's such a skill too, right? I mean, just shooting on flats, you know what I mean? Or just to have that, like for catalog work or for any of this stuff, like there's really nothing you can do. There's no other way to get a physical thing digitized or in a book form. Yeah. You know, you literally need someone to shoot it. You can't hire a AI robot to shoot those, at least not yet.
I mean, there's full studios, and that's like, especially now with all of the online commerce, that there's just studios where people drop off all their stuff, and then you just shoot, and you pay by the shot and
item,
pay by the item, shot, and it's just like you just roll through, and there's
people shooting it, right?
Photographers,
it's not automated.
Yeah. I don't know how much they know about photography. I mean,
sure.
I have no idea. I don't know, but I know that there's it's like photo mills.
That's wild.
But it's like weird. Photography's weird, too.
Man. Like I'm sure, like to get all those on model shots for retail or for apparel.
It's
like
a whole thing.
That's a whole day. I remember
if you can get into that, it's good money. But man, it is a grind.
I don't know if it's good money though. It depends, I guess, who you're shooting for.
I mean, if you own the company and you have a couple. I mean, usually how that works is like you have a studio that does it, and then they hire out the photographers, the kids who do it, and then it's just like an hourly click, put it in Photoshop, put it through. But now I'm sure they must have just like AI kind of cut and paste, like
cutout.
The cutting out was the hard part.
When I was helping Pierre with like the last version of Altamont, we had like kind of like a college student photographer and his friend who was model size.
Yeah,
we just hung some white paper, in the office, and I remember we stayed up all night. I think I ended up just sleeping on the floor. I think we were there till like
it's
6 a.m. We were just all night long. Just like, no, it was only like 40 more SKUs. We got to clear. Come on, keep going, keep going.
Catalogs.
And I got beers, crazy. I got pizzas for everybody, and then coffees. And like, all right, just keep going. Come on, can't stop.
Because always the clothes are like, they're almost here. Just set up the thing. They're almost here, and they haven't seen them.
Clothes.
Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, you did. It was the most of the times that I did that. It was like, yeah, we're all set up, and then they're like, oh, the shipment's late, so we have half of it, and then the other half would show up, and they hadn't even seen it yet, so like the patterns would be wrong, and then you'd have to like, oh, this color, these are they're all just samples, so this isn't going to be red. Can we make it look a little? Whatever. It's like insanity. It's a whole skill. That whole thing is just like a mind-numbing skill that some people are really good at.
I remember we found a service online as a website, and I think it was just like Photoshop folks in India who could do cutouts with drop shadows, and so like PNG, like on transparency with shadows.
Yeah.
It was like 30 cents,
so cheap
a cut or something, but we need it was like 400 shots, and they got them done within.
And they probably look
it was great.
Probably look great.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's totally. If you really wanted to be, pure, for putting up on Shopify, for putting up on a website, it was amazing.
Yeah,
sure. If you wanted to go through with a fine tooth comb, you could find probably 10 out of those 400 that looked a little wonky, had a little white.
No one cares.
Thing, but it was it's a while. But learning about that whole world of stuff, like on model.
That was
and then on the flats. We'd have to pump get all the beanies and stuff. You have to put like paper and stuff in them to get the dome, or build the whole thing out to get it to sit right. Oh, commercial photography.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and that used to be that was like my first real job in LA was working for a food photography company.
Oh, wow.
That was like a stock photography. So, but I worked as a digital, like a retoucher. And so they would shoot everything on film, and then they'd get the film back, and we would scan all the film, and then the scanner would put them up on the website, and in a folder, and we'd go through and we'd just grab one, and we'd have to go through and take all the dust out. And then some of them, we'd have to cut out or whatever. We'd have to do all these color correction things, and then we'd throw it in a folder, go grab another one, and it was like hamburgers and hot dogs and on white and dinner plates and it's just, but it was so fun. And I also got that job from Michelle's sister Gina Beal. Yeah, she always hooked me up. She always had the jobs waiting.
Was in the family.
Yeah.
Have you seen those clips where they like throw pickles through like running water, and then they slow it down? They're like heads of lettuce like splashing through water.
We had all those back then. We had to retouch all those the photos. I mean, there was
a pickle through water through a hose spigot.
Totally, or just like water drops. So also the guy Morgan, who I worked for in Portland, he used to work for a food or like a studio photographer, and he when he was a assistant was in the early to like mid 90s. But it was like real, like pre-digital, completely no computer. I mean, when I was there, it was no computers or anything either. But this was like, oh no, it's like hand retouching. So you'd hire a retoucher that would paint on the prints, and they would paint all the dust off with a paintbrush.
That's a whole other skill.
So totally. So there was no Photoshop, nothing. And so everything had to be perfect. And so a lot of the food photography and stuff was shot on 4x5, and all of the which is like a big huge, like a big huge camera with a 4-inch by 5-inch negative, and all these photographers had these lighting tricks that the assistants had to sign off that they would never tell any of the other photographers, because that was like NDAs. Their thing, like how to get bubbles in beer.
Oh my God.
Like how to shoot water flowing down a thing. Cause there would be like the one person, a man or a woman who knew how to shoot beer.
Wow.
And that's not a joke. And it's like, and he had told me a couple things. He's like, oh yeah, I used to work for this photographer, but we had to sign stuff that was like, or they just had to like, they would know who told.
Promise to not rip off.
Because oh, you work for that guy, and now that guy is shooting beer. But they would set up like a fake table, and they'd have like lights coming up through the table to light the beer from underneath. And it was just like, he had just all these crazy ways of doing stuff. Because by the time we were there, it was like they were starting to do Photoshop and digital and stuff. And so it wasn't that big of a deal, because half of that stuff started to become like obsolete, done in Photoshop anyway. Yeah. But those guys were like, you'd light one beer bottle with like 7 lights, 8, maybe 8 lights, 8 or 9. And like little tiny pin lights from underneath. And then you'd have to like fizz the beer and get the foam out right. But then even when we worked for the food photography people, watching them, because they did food shoots there as well. And all the stuff like ice cream was really like just lard, colored lard, because it doesn't melt. Because you'd have to use hot lights. And so they'd use hot lights for the film, because they'd shoot like film, like for Chili's or whatever. And so like the ice cream was like lard. And then all the other ones, like there was like so much stuff that was like supposedly cheese was really just wax. And like it's just so many amazing tricks for like food stylists were just like scientists.
That's
just
a whole
crazy
world right there.
Like to get foam off of things, like they had certain ways to make beer foam as opposed to like foam for Coke or foam for like any other thing, or like burgers, like the wax, like to make the wax on the top of the burger was like actual wax. I don't know. There's just so many things. It was unreal to watch them do shoots.
I feel like those are like the like magician's secrets revealed.
Oh my God. And people are like, oh, it's so expensive to do photo shoots. And they're like, do you want to come to a photo shoot and see how difficult it is to shoot a hamburger? Yeah, like literally like a hamburger is like you have to make like 30 of them. So they'd make like 30 hamburgers, and then they'd go through and they'd find the perfect one, and then they'd lay out the lettuce. They'd lay out perfect pieces of lettuce on a table, like under like the refrigerated, and they'd go like, "Ooh, this is the one," and they'd take one piece of lettuce, and then they'd cut all the tomatoes, and they'd have one piece of tomato, and they'd put the seeds in perfectly. I mean, it's unreal. It was amazing. We'd just sit and watch sometimes, and we're just like, it's so cool. I don't know, all of that. I feel like a lot of those art, I mean, it's probably still out there just as much, but so much of that is getting taken over by just digital. I mean, everything's so expensive. I don't know how.
Yeah, I'm sure you can get a weird AI mutant looking hamburger with like 40
get the weird Will Smith eating spaghetti. Oh my God, how I just thought of that. How weird is like Will Smith has had the trajectory of like a golden god for so many years. It was like everything was kind of perfect. It was like big movie star, and then he gets to this spot, and within 2 years he's punched Chris Rock.
He slapped one comedian.
Slapped one comedian. He's had like his whole family, whatever's going on with that, was completely out in the public. And then he was the first person that came out, or that they used for AI with the Will Smith eating spaghetti AI thing. Have you seen that?
I think you sent it to me.
Yeah, it's like the worst. It was like the prompt of like Will Smith eating spaghetti, and he's just like in a in a restaurant, and he's just taking handfuls of spaghetti, and his face is turning into spaghetti, and it's spaghetti is just everywhere, and his mouth is big and then it's small, and he's eating so much spaghetti. And I'm like, when you're Will Smith and you're like, wait, how did this happen?
What did I do? Why did I leave Scientology? I should have never left Scientology. Oh.
Yeah. It all could have been perfect if you just stayed with Tom Cruise.
Oh
my God.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, I've really yet to see AI stuff that looks good, or at least maybe that that I don't know of. You know what I mean? I feel like all the AI things I've seen, it's just like, this is not good. I mean, I get it. I get there's something to be scared about. I understand how technology works and how fast things get better, but as of now, I don't know. I think it's that same kind of thing. We're just like we were saying. We're like the industry is going to redesign itself, and it's all bets and blind double bets on things like when this happens, then everything's going to go, and then as soon as that thing doesn't happen, then the whole thing is going to come crashing down and then back to square one. I think there's a lot of things that are teetering on this computer shit being cheap and easy to do and affordable and fast and all these things. And you're like, it's not going to be that. Or if it is, people aren't going to, the quality is going to be so shit that they forget that you're actually going to need human beings to do something.
To fix it.
To make something that other human beings want to watch. You know what I mean? Like humans, it's not going to be the like, we're not all that dumb just because you have our money. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, I'll just cancel the subscription or whatever. Or I'm just not going to watch it. You know what I mean? This might be the thing that sends people back to books. The one thing, is interesting with all like looking at publishing stuff. I remember hearing something like in the last year, I was really saying that, that books were popular in cold winter. It was cold winter entertainment. When for most of history, obviously there was not, film or photographs, or let alone, computers and all these things. But it was entertainment, and it was specifically made for cold places where you had to stay indoors all day. So that's why you had a library. It was basically your film collection or your thing, whatever you need these stories. And it was something you could do. You could sit and read a book and it would pass the time. You'd get through, a cold winter where you had to stay indoors easier. And so and there was varying levels of literature or pulp or just trashy novels or this thing, you know what I mean? It's always been the case since there were books, it kind of starts with the Bible, but the fact that, it just serves as entertainment. It's just a way for people to pass time. I think there's something about lionizing, the past and be like, oh, this was so great. But I think looking at like the functions the books played, obviously there's history, there's, more archival things, that serve a bigger purpose, but the majority of books were just entertainment for people, when you couldn't leave.
Yeah.
And now it's different. Culture has evolved and there's other entertainment when you can't go anywhere. I think that was sort of the pandemic. We'll call that, put that into focus. But not saying that we shouldn't have books or I'm against books, but I think it is interesting to sort of look at the
Randy Randall against books.
After 1 month of interviewing publishers and understanding DIY.
I've realized I'm against books.
I just don't think you really need them. I kind of come to this thing. No, obviously, there's it's a huge thing, but I think we have to also live in the reality of, I don't think, I read as much as my parents, and I don't think my kids read as much as me, and their kids will probably read even less than them.
Yeah, I'm not even a reader.
And not that they shouldn't read. I mean, they should, obviously there's a skill to reading and that you need for things far beyond just entertainment of stuff. But you know what I mean? But we have ability and options of entertaining ourselves that don't involve reading, Huckleberry Finn.
We have so much entertainment now that people are back to just not leaving the house.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not even a choice. Yeah. Like now you have the choice to leave the house, and most people are like, I mean, you know what? Honestly, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here.
Yeah.
Entertained to death is the perfect way to put it.
Yeah. But I don't know. I just think it's an interesting sort of place we find ourselves in now, and I love I think everyone I've talked to this round or for this month it's been art books, it's been kind of independent publishing and culture and biographies and things that I think move past even just literature. I wish I knew I wish I knew more literature. I wish I knew more people.
Well, maybe you'll for
literary things
for publishing month number 2. You can find literary publishers.
No pictures. No picture
no
books.
Pictures. No picture books.
Chapter books.
Adult book.
Well,
not adult books.
Sounds different.
Yeah, that's a whole
chapter
different
books.
Thing. Yeah, chapter books. Yeah, we'll keep it there. Well, what I was thinking too, which is what's interesting to me, even thinking about the books and stuff too, especially now that everything's going digital, is that it actually gives you a little bit of ownership over your material or your library or whatever, because even now, you have your Audible account or you have your everything on a hard drive or whatever, and then someone goes, "Oh, forgot to tell you, we're turning off the electricity." And then you go, "Oh wait, where's all my stuff? What's on those things? Oh, I need electricity." Yeah, we don't really have electricity right now. I'm like, "Oh wait, I don't have any stuff. My stuff is in like bleeps and bloops in a box that I don't know how it even works." And like, so it doesn't even really exist until the lights turn on. Whereas with a book or with these physical things like a painting or with a printed out photograph. I mean, I know that even a lot of people, for a lot of photographers for years are like, yeah, I don't know how to archive this. Like when because the hard drives are obviously going to go bad, and supposedly, after every 20 years you should update your hard drives and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to update what, like 60 terabytes of stuff every however many years. And that's just the old stuff. Yeah. And then what you're updating it to another like electronic box of things that I don't know, or you update it to a company, and then the company goes, "Hey, we're going out of business," and you go, "Oh my God, you have all my stuff." Yeah, I mean, you can find another place to put it, because obviously all these places aren't going to stay alive, or how much stuff is on zip disks.
Oh my God.
Somewhere.
Zip disk.
I mean, I have a box of zip disks. There's not that much stuff on them because they're only like 16 megabytes a piece or whatever they were. 20. You'd get like a 50 meg zip disk, and you're like, oh my God, I don't need anything else. Like a computer. I remember getting a Mac.
Did you get a Jazz drive?
1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte hard drive, and it was like, dude, this Mac has a gig. It has a gig of memory. It's crazy.
Remember after Zip Disk, you had the Jazz drive?
Oh yeah, that was the big deal. Yeah, hundreds of dollars for one of those.
Went to CD after that.
Yeah, but then the CDs go bad. You find out,
of course.
Like, no, CDs disintegrate. Did you keep them in a cold storage? Like, what? What do you mean cold storage? Who has cold storage?
Oh, they're in a box at the bottom of my
good luck trying
closet. We've been flooded and eaten by rats and shit on, and
good luck trying to get anything off a CD that's over 20 years old.
Oh,
I just that horrible sound like
it's not gonna
work. You're like, no, wait, is it not reading? And then you take it out and you put it back in, and it goes, and you're like, oh, thank God. Okay, get it off, quick.
Oh,
I hate technology.
You're giving me anxiety.
Oh my God. Well, I have so many boxes. I have like boxes of hard drives, and then I just keep looking at them, and I'm like, and then every once in a while, like my friend Trevor hit me up the other day, because I used to shoot for MySpace secret shows. Mm-hmm. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
And I have photos of Pete Wentz.
Oh, you need that.
And it was actually a really fun show. It was a crazy show because it was in Florida, and just everything, Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
It was huge. It was like it was in a little theater. It was maybe like 1,500 people or something, but it's Fall Out Boy, so it's just like insane. And also couldn't have been nicer dudes. Yeah. Total. I was just put that out there. Super nice people and everything.
The former guest Josh Newton's current bosses for the Fall Out Boy.
Oh, right. Yeah. Totally.
Our Halloween guest, Josh Newton. Yeah.
And my friend Trevor, his buddies, doing something with Pete, and was like, "Hey, do you remember that photo?" that you have of him with like signing autographs or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I remember the photo, whether I can find it. And I actually have everything like alphabetized, but I'm like, okay, I'll just bring out the box, clunk, and like go through like which years. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And we'll see if it even boots up.
Oh my God.
But I do keep getting like once a month now, I'm getting like, hey, do you still have that? Oh. Do you remember that time? And I'm like, I do. I think it's looking like I need to get a server or something to just have.
You need to hire an assistant. Now you need the assistant.
I need a better job
to become an assistant.
I need a better job to pay for a server.
That's it.
But yeah, but that's this funny thing of like, I'm like, can I just have books? I like being able to go,
oh yeah,
I want to look at that one photo. And I'm like, I know it's in that book and it's somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
And you just open it up and there it is.
A little sticky note. Yeah. Well, she's been good. She's got these things, chat books. I think they just went out of business or they lost their contract with Instagram. Where they basically just print out your Instagram for you.
Yeah.
And that was
Those
great.
are so good. We did that a couple times.
Yeah. For our kids and everything and all the stuff we have from her thing. It's just like, oh, this is so easy. I love just having little books around, little photo albums.
Totally.
Otherwise it's like, it's somewhere. It wasn't the phone, but now I got rid of it. I put it on a hard drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on some phone before they had the cloud. I'm like, I don't know. It's on one of those. It's on one of those that one of those in the box that I can't open up anymore.
It's wild.
Funny.
All right, man. Well, I hope you guys have a good Turkey Day.
Yeah, you too.
I will see you next weekend. Yeah, we got Dorothy Perret, Dope Press. She does a lot of great artist sort of monographs and a lot of editions.
Awesome.
I think she ran a rad magazine that's now just gone onto the web. We talk about it in the interview called Paris LA. We're talking about the French LA connections and stuff. And yeah, Dorothy's always been rad.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear it.
She'll be closing out the month.
Awesome.
All right, man. Well, yeah, everybody have a good one. And you can write us hyphenate@gmail.com. You can find Aaron Farley @Aaron Farley on Instagram and Blue Sky and Twitch and X and
just I'm everywhere, guys.
Everywhere.
I'm everywhere except for not anything that's not Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. TikTok, you watch those dance trends. And then you can find me @Randy S. Randall on the same, nowhere except Instagram. That should be you know how old, like how to tell people you're old. Like I'm on Facebook.
If you're only on Facebook, you're really old. And then if you're on Instagram and Facebook, then you're like
you're still
mid-age.
Old. Yeah. I saw a great meme. It was your age is 70 minus how many bands you know on the Coachella poster.
Oh my God, we were just talking about that. I looked, I was reading them off, and I was like, I know
I'm
4
68,
bands.
I think, yeah.
Oh, really?
I was 67.
I knew 4 bands from every day that weren't on the top list. Like, I obviously know Lady Gaga, and I knew Missy Elliott. And then the other 3 that were on the top, I was like, God, I don't even know the other 3 top anymore.
Doesn't matter. It's been many years since I've known anybody on the festival flyers, and I'm very happy about that. I'll be staying home.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. All right, everybody, have fun traveling. Be safe. Happy Turkey Day, and don't get in too many fights with your family, or do get in a lot of fights. Fuck it, who cares? But yeah, burn the place down.
Burn the place down and leave.
Fuck it. But yeah, let us know. Tell us how it went. You can find us. All right, see ya.
All right, later. Bye.